Welcome back to another episode of the Uncut Truth. What's going on today?
Not much, man. Big news today, though.
We got lots of news, especially some NFL news as the trade deadline was today. Along with college football, as the playoff committee met today for the first official playoff ranking.
I don't know if you checked out the notes or not, but I'm pretty right on the money. I gotta say.
For the picks.
Yeah, I mean,
Oh,
I was a little bit off, like one team maybe, but I think I should be on the committee.
You had Penn State on there,
Yeah, for sure.
and they're not on there. Which I had several teams that weren't on there. I had Wisconsin and Miami that weren't on there.
Yeah, to me, I mean, Oklahoma, Ohio State, Penn State, all interchangeable. Penn State should definitely be above Ohio State, though.
Penn State should be?
Yeah.
Penn State just got beat by Ohio State.
By 1 point. If they were to play that game 3 more times, Ohio State would win any of those games. Like that, I don't see it, man. I know that ruins Penn State's chance for potentially making the conference championship. That sets Ohio State up pretty good, but I still think Penn State's a better team.
They might be a better team, and I'm not going to argue whether they're a better team or not. But when you play a head-to-head game, you have to go with the team that won as the better team.
Yeah, and my big surprise from the ranking, the top 10 at the very least, was Clemson. Like, really? Number 4? No.
And I think the reason why they jumped up to number 4 there is because the one game they lost, they were without their quarterback. And now, were they struggling in that game? They were losing in the first half with the quarterback. But I think that they gave them a little bit of exception to that because they lost their quarterback for the second half. And because we've had all these teams have had close games, really except for Georgia. Georgia's the only team that hasn't really played a close game, and they've pretty much handled their business all season. And I was glad they put them number 1. I was a little bit shocked, but really they beat Appalachian State by 11. They did play a close game against Notre Dame. They only won by 1. Then they won by 28, 28, 41 to nothing against Tennessee, 45 to 14 against Vandy, 53 to 28 against Missouri, and 42 to 7 against Florida. They haven't played a close game yet, except for that Notre Dame game, and they beat them. And that's Notre Dame's only loss, and they're also in the top 4 as well.
Yeah, I agree with the Notre Dame pick. Their only loss was like a last-second field goal to Georgia, who's number 1. So I think Notre Dame's been kind of a surprise to me. At least, like I said, to me, they've been kind of hiding off back behind everybody. But I think they're well-deserving of the number 3 spot.
Yeah, and I think we'll really get to see how good they are when they play Miami in 2 weeks.
They got a rough schedule left over, man.
Yeah, let's see what they got. They got Wake Forest, which should be a cakewalk. Miami, Navy, and then Stanford. So are you surprised that Auburn is the best 2-loss team?
Yes and no. Yes, because I don't think Iowa State's been a surprise, and they beat. To me, Iowa State should probably be the best 2-loss team because they have beat 2 top 5 teams this season, which I don't think anybody else has, or if they have, it's been a long time. But I think Auburn was a pretty big surprise, to be honest with you. I mean, their work, like their schedule so far hasn't been super impressive. They lost a close game to Clemson, and they got beat by LSU after LSU just got embarrassed. They destroyed Mississippi State, but I think Auburn, with 2 losses, I think they're getting the benefit of the doubt based off their last couple of games, which is number 1 Georgia, number 2 Alabama. Other than that, they shouldn't. There's no reason they should be number 14.
Yeah, I think that they're getting the same benefit. I don't know that Iowa State is that impressive either. They lost to Iowa, which I don't think they've done very well this year. Not near as good as they had done in the past. You know, when they were really good a couple of years ago. I mean, they're 5-3, but still. And then they lost to Texas, which Texas not really that good of a team either. They're beating the teams they should beat, and they're losing to the teams they, I guess, should lose to. So I think that those 2 losses really hurt Iowa State, even though they did beat TCU and they beat Oklahoma. But still, I mean, I think that TCU game is one of those games that if you play that game 10 times, that's the only time that Iowa State beats them. LSU wasn't ranked when they lost to them, but they're ranked number 19 now. Because they're in the SEC, and if you win 2 games in a row, that you automatically get ranked.
You're in the SEC. If you beat 5 teams, you're ranked. It doesn't matter who it is. Did you want to go over who you had for your top 6? We picked them before the rankings came out, so I'm just curious as to what yours
Yeah,
were.
yeah, we did. I can do that. I had Alabama number one, Georgia number two, Wisconsin I had number three, Ohio State four, and then I had Clemson and Miami five and six is the first two out. And I still am not buying the Notre Dame. I think Notre Dame's going to probably end up with 3 or 4 losses this year. Before it's said and done, I think they'll lose at least to Stanford and to Miami. And I think they're probably going to end up losing one of those other two games they shouldn't lose. And I just don't really. I mean, the USC game was a big win, but I think that's more about that USC struggled in that game more than Notre Dame was dominant because Darnold looked really bad in that game. And it's just the way it goes sometimes. Is this week TCU, Kenny Hill had 3 turnovers by himself, and that's the reason why they ended up losing only by 7 points to Iowa State. But um, that's who I went with. Was that order? What did you have?
I had Alabama number one, Georgia number two. I think that's pretty much universal. I mean, the fact that they flipped it was kind of a surprise. I had Notre Dame three just because I think their wins have been pretty good. And then Penn State number four. I still think they're the best one of the best one loss teams. So I went with them, with Ohio State being behind them, just because Ohio State, their loss to Oklahoma hurt big, but they bounced back great after that. I mean, just it doesn't matter now, but had Penn State not allowed 2 touchdowns in the last 4 minutes of the game and allowed 19 points in the fourth quarter, we wouldn't even be talking about anybody else besides Penn State at the number 3 spot. And then I have Oklahoma because their win over Ohio State to me was just so dominating. I mean, they've struggled against teams they shouldn't struggle against in the Big 12, but I think Oklahoma would be a good option for the Big 12 option. So I got Ohio State and Oklahoma as my two outside looking in.
Yeah, you still think Oklahoma's the best team in the Big 12?
I think they have a real good possibility for it, yes. TCU, I'm more anxious to see because, I mean, there's been a couple of games where they just kind of struggled to me, and I want them to produce better against some of these teams. Like Iowa State's been a surprise this year. There's no doubt about that. But there's no reason why the way they've been playing, the way they've been putting up points, they shouldn't have allowed. The reason why they shouldn't have put up the points. I mean, the turnovers, quarterback play is always going to come down to bite you. But you beat an Oklahoma State team by like 13 points, West Virginia by 7, K-State by 20, Kansas by 40. Then you come out and lose to Iowa State. I mean, that's a lot rougher. But I think the TCU Oklahoma game for the conference championship would be real awesome, though. I think it'd be a good, high-scoring affair.
Yeah, and I think it's unfortunate that they had a bad game, and they played on the road at Iowa State, and just they had a bad game, and it cost them. But I didn't have TCU in my list. I didn't have Oklahoma either, but I still think TCU is the best team in the Big 12. I think it's kind of, I guess I would say, a shame that they dropped TCU so far and they have Oklahoma so high because, to me, I think TCU has a much more impressive resume so far than Oklahoma does, even though they beat Ohio State. But really, other than Ohio State, they haven't really beat anyone. Oklahoma hasn't.
Yeah,
and TCU's beat. They've already beat 2 ranked opponents and played 3 total. And OU has only played the 1 ranked opponent and they won. And then they lost to an unranked Iowa State team.
Yeah. Well, Oklahoma, they had the Bedlam game this week, which is Oklahoma State. Next week, they have the TCU game. So their next 2 games are going to be pretty rough. The last 2 games should be big blowouts, especially the Kansas game. West Virginia might give them a run for their money, but when you're looking at their next 4 games, that's a combined 3 teams are combined, was that 14-2, 17, or 19-5. Not counting Kansas. So 3 teams are 19-5 combined that they have to come against, with 2 of them being 7-1 each. Like, they get a rough rest of their schedule. Maybe that's why they got probably one of the toughest remaining schedules on the board.
It'll be interesting to see how it shakes out this week with all those teams and how they do. Like you said, Oklahoma playing Oklahoma State and then playing TCU the week after that. And it just should be an interesting weekend of football this weekend.
Oh, yeah, for sure, man.
Speaking about the undefeated teams, there's still 5 of them. There's Alabama, Georgia, Wisconsin, Miami, and UCF. Now, Georgia and Alabama are in the same conference, so only one of them can finish the season undefeated. Do you see, not counting those two, the other three, do you see any way that these teams go undefeated and don't make it into the playoff?
And don't make it into the playoff.
I mean, because a lot of people have said Miami's schedule has been really weak, but if they go undefeated, you see them getting in.
I don't know, man. I think everybody on the list has a tough remaining schedule. I mean, other than UCF. Because Miami's got a ranked Virginia Tech team followed by a ranked Notre Dame team, man. So if you go undefeated, I think they got a real good shot. Like, even if they don't win the conference championship, I still think they have a real good shot for that fourth spot with one loss. Because if you lose your only game at the conference championship with the body of work they have, at least at the end of the season, like that could speak volumes for them. I mean, I'm not big on them being ranked in the top 10, even with the no losses, man. That's kind of a surprise to me because I don't think they played anybody. But they've done enough to get to where they are now. I mean, even with no losses, I still don't think they're a top 10 team.
Yeah, but I think there's several teams on that list we could say that are ranked in the top 25 that haven't really played a tough schedule, and they've gotten the benefit of it, of just the benefit of winning a lot of games in a row, I guess, so to speak.
Alabama?
Alabama wins every year, so it's not. I don't know if it's necessarily them, but I mean, like for example, like the NC State notable wins are against Florida State without their quarterback and against Louisville.
Yeah, who's kind of dropped off after that.
A 2-5 Florida State, by the way, is a impressive win.
But I'd say Miami should be above Wisconsin, even though I don't think Miami's a top 10 team. They have had a rougher schedule than Wisconsin has. Wisconsin hasn't played a ranked opponent yet this year, and they're ranked above Miami. Like that's crazy. And they don't play anybody that's ranked as of right now on their list. Like that. How do you go an entire season without playing anybody ranked and not be the same as a UCF? Like that makes no sense to me.
Yeah, I think though that's because of, I think, wasn't Iowa ranked earlier this year? And wasn't Michigan and Minnesota both ranked at times this year? Michigan was expected to be good.
I know Michigan was, yeah, but the 6-2 is not bad, but that's by far their roughest remaining opponent. And that's not. I just don't. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not saying that their schedule is tough or not tough and who they're going to play, but at the beginning of the season, I don't think we would have said that Wisconsin had an easy schedule. Looking at it, I think that now that the season's shaked out, it looks like it's been an easy schedule. And that's going to wrap up another week of the Uncut Truth.
If you guys be sure to leave comments, man. Give us some feedback. Start the conversation down in the comment section below. We would love to hear from you guys, see what you guys are thinking. If you agree, disagree, let us know.
Yeah, and if you also want to hit us up on Twitter, Instagram, any of the social media platforms, go ahead and do that. Check us out there, and we'll be glad to start a conversation with you.
Yeah, be sure to leave a like if you like the video, subscribe if you're new. Love to have you around every week. That's going to be it for this episode. This has been the Uncut Truth.